Welcome to the Now and Beyond podcast, hosted by Ryan Canfield, founder and president of Victus Wealth Management. Whether you're seeking financial freedom, investment insights, or simply looking to optimize your lifestyle, tune in for conversations that empower you to achieve a balance between enjoying the present and ensuring a resilient financial future. Welcome to a podcast where the art of living well today intersects with the science of planning for a brighter tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Now and Beyond podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Canfield, and today we're going to get personal, and you are going to have an opportunity to learn more about me. In episode 1, I briefly talked about my story, but since that episode has been published, I've gotten a lot of comments and questions about it, and requests for me to go into a little bit more detail about who I am, what my company is, and why I do what I do. I figured I would take today's episode to dive more into my background and give you some insight into what shaped me to be who I am today. I want to take you all the way back to when I was in 8th grade. I wanted a job so bad. I was friends with some older kids who had cell phones and were able to buy the video games they wanted and all these other cool things, and I envied them. But being only 14 years old and trying to find a job was extremely challenging. One day, a friend of mine who worked for the small town diner in Jessup, Maryland, called me up and said that there was an opportunity for me there. And I will never forget this. I went to interview on a Wednesday night, and my mom drove me to this interview, and they asked her to sit with us while I was being interviewed. You want to talk about being intimidating? I had no idea what I was supposed to do, what I was supposed to say. And looking back, I probably bombed that interview. But again, being 14 years old, never did any type of mock interviews. They decided to take a chance on me. And at the end of the interview, Miss Linda, who was one of the owners, told me that I could start that Sunday, which happened to be Mother's Day. Now, I don't know about you, but anybody that has worked in the restaurant industry knows that Mother's Day is one of the most popular days for families to go out and eat. So that morning was extremely busy. And I remember leaving there later that afternoon and thinking to myself that, is this how every single day is going to be working at this diner? I didn't have any time to sit down, no time to think, didn't have time to eat, drink. But let me tell you, it was so much fun. I had an absolute blast. I worked at this diner until literally the week I left for college. So again, started in May of my 8th grade and did not leave until the week I left for college. And apparently it was pretty unheard of for a kid to stay at a job that long. But let me tell you, I loved working at that diner. I loved working with Mr. Frank and Miss Linda. They took a chance on me and taught me so much about not just business, but also life. I was given so much responsibility that looking back on it, I can't believe they trusted a kid to do some of the things that they asked me to do. I would come in some days at like 4 a.m. to help open the diner. And there were some nights that I closed the diner down at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Frank and Miss Linda showed me so many important things when it comes to running a business, from things like processing payroll, managing inventory, updating the brand and pricing on the menus, how to hire some additional staff. Unfortunately, there were some times where they had to fire some staff, and so much more. But there was one thing that Mr. Frank drilled into my head over and over and over again. Attention to detail. Those 3 words will never escape me. Every day, every shift, I wish I could go back and count how many times he would say, attention to detail, attention to detail, attention to detail. And back then, I probably thought it was very, very annoying and questioning, why does he keep mentioning attention to detail? But now that I'm older, it has become such an important part of my day-to-day life, and I'm so appreciative. He would tell me to pay attention to detail on everything. It all matters, and you never know what you will learn. And those 3 words play such a huge part in how I conduct my business today. And there's going to be more on that to come in a little bit later. So here I was, a 14-year-old kid, still in 8th grade, working, earning real money. I felt on top of the world. And I still remember getting my first paycheck and rushing to the bank to cash it. I was extremely excited, but little did I know I was about to get my first real finance lesson from my mom. Later that night, my mom told me that we needed to talk and asked me to come to her room. And here I thought I was in trouble for something, as pretty much any 14-year-old boy being told to come talk to their mother probably is thinking. And when I walked in there, I saw a bunch of small white envelopes on her bed. Yeah, you can probably guess where this is going. So she started to explain budgeting to me. She told me that every single paycheck I get, I needed to stick a certain amount of money into each one of the envelopes. And that dollar amount that would go into each envelope would be something that her and I would come up with, and we would have to stick to it. Can you take a guess at what the very first envelope was that she told me I had to put money in? It was the savings envelope. So this envelope was basically my savings account. Occasionally, I think we did it every 2 or 3 months, whatever money was in that, the savings envelope, we would then take to the bank to deposit it into an actual savings account. So after we made that savings envelope, we made envelopes for all different types of expenses that I would have. We had set up an envelope for my cell phone bill. We set up one for my sports equipment because at that time I was playing baseball, lacrosse, getting into football. I think I played a little bit of soccer. We had an envelope for my car insurance for the future car I was going to buy. And we even had an envelope for dates that I was going on, which looking back always makes me laugh. I remember keeping track on the outside of these envelopes for how much money was actually inside. Unfortunately, I also remember occasionally having to quote unquote borrow from one envelope to pay for something else. And let me tell you, that was never a good feeling. I always felt like I was never going to be able to get ahead, or maybe I should go and pick up another shift at the diner to replenish that envelope. Needless to say, even to this day, I still think the envelope budgeting system is a great strategy for some people. There are even apps out there that can act as a digital envelope system, and I really encourage some of my clients who are just developing a budget to use them. While I was working at the diner, I remember my parents would talk with a financial advisor once in a while. I talked about this story in the first episode, but there are 2 distinct memories I have from them working with this advisor. The first one is where this particular advisor positioned some assets poorly, and it ended up causing my brother to lose his eligibility for his government benefits. This was a complete oversight on the advisor. I guess you could say she didn't pay attention to detail. All I remember is my parents having multiple meetings with attorneys trying to get his eligibility reinstated. And after years and years of fighting, they were finally successful. The second memory I have is 2008. My parents always said that they were conservative investors. They didn't like to take risk. So you can imagine how shocked they were when, 2007, 2008, that recession happened, and they lost the majority of their money. Also, imagine how shocked they were to realize that the bulk of their money was invested in stocks. This portfolio did not align with their goals nor their risk. And I kind of wish I could have been a fly on the wall for that meeting, especially when it looks like the advisor had them positioned in a way that benefited themselves over my parents. It's completely unacceptable. I remember how stressed and upset all of this made my parents. It is safe to say that these two memories changed the course of my life. I was exposed to the stock market when I was in 7th grade through an assignment that our teacher had given our class. We were assigned virtual $1 million and was told that we needed to invest it. And we could invest it in anything that we wanted. From that moment on, I wanted to work on Wall Street. But after seeing the experience my family had with their financial advisor, I decided that I would rather help people navigate this complex financial world. Fast forward some years, and I received a finance degree from York College here in Pennsylvania. Going into my senior year, I received an internship offer from a national broker-dealer to intern with the managing principal of the local office during the fall semester, and then with a financial advisor for the spring semester. I did all of this while going to school full-time and working part-time for a local bank. I learned so much during this internship. Everything from how to manage multiple advisors, marketing, caring for clients, building a financial plan, reviewing investments, and much more. At the end of the spring semester, I was offered a position as a financial advisor and gladly accepted it and began to study for my licenses. Over the next couple years, I began to build my practice. I learned very quickly what I wanted my business to look like. I decided that financial planning was going to be the main focus of my business. So many advisors in the past would tell me to focus on gathering assets no matter what. This never really sat well with me. How in the world could I build an investment portfolio for somebody without knowing what this person's goals are? What makes them tick? What their experience with money has been? So many advisors would come to me and say, if they're willing to talk to you and they're willing to work with you, you need to be willing to work with them. And this ended up causing a little bit of friction with certain clients who, let's just say, I didn't really mesh well with. We had different values, we had different outlooks on life, and we just really could never connect. And over the years of working with them, we never really connected. Fortunately, I met other advisors who these particular clients would mesh well with and connect with a little bit more, and I was able to set up introductions, and to this day, they still work together, and I feel like the client is probably a lot better off than what they would have been if they were working with me. Fortunately for me, I found 2 other advisors who shared the same exact thought process as I did. And in 2017, the 3 of us partnered up, and we created our own firm. Things were great there, but I wanted to do things just a little bit differently. We focused a lot on the local community, and I wanted to create a much wider reach. So if we fast forward from 2017 to 2023, I decided to go out on my own and launch Victus Wealth Management. When I decided to launch my own firm, I knew I wanted to focus on helping people to live. When I was trying to name my firm, somebody had mentioned the word Victus to me. Victus is Latin for to live. It immediately clicked. Over the course of my career, I have witnessed more than one client sacrifice the enjoyment of their earning years only for tragedy to strike once they reached retirement. And these stories are devastating, and I just knew that there had to be a better way. There is one client story that stood out during the launching process of Victus Wealth Management and was a big reason behind me naming the firm Victus. This couple had been clients for years. They had big goals for retirement. They wanted to take their whole family to Italy and Disney World. They were going to remodel their main level of their house. They were going to travel to see extended family and so much more. They felt like these were things they couldn't do because they were still working, and they felt guilty taking off work, and they felt guilty spending the money because they were always told you have to save every penny. They were of the mindset that you work hard now and you save your money to enjoy your golden years. One day, I got a call from the wife. She had just been diagnosed with cancer. They were beginning treatments right away, but she was going to continue to work. Fortunately, she ended up beating that round of cancer. And it was extremely challenging trying to balance everything, going to treatment, doctor's appointments, and still working full time. But she did it. About a year or so later, she decided to retire. And shortly after retiring, she was diagnosed with cancer again. This time, the cancer had spread all throughout her body. She had passed away 2 months later. The first time I met with her husband after she had passed, we sat in silence a lot and just cried together. You know, when I became an advisor, nobody told me how emotional this career can possibly be. I will never forget his first words to me when he saw me. He said, "None of this money is worth it now. I don't want any of this. I just want my wife back. I don't want to take trips without her. I don't want to change the house because the way it is right now reminds me of her. We saved all of this money to enjoy our golden years, and now we can't." That hit me like a ton of bricks. And unfortunately, it wasn't the first time that I had a similar conversation. This is my why behind Victus. The truth is, I don't think people need to wait until retirement to enjoy life and to enjoy experiences. Too often, I've seen someone work hard for 30 or more years, then retire and pass away within a year or so of leaving the workforce. Spouses and family are left wondering why they spent so long waiting to enjoy life when they should have been enjoying it all along. I want to help you find the balance between experiencing a value-driven life today while still working toward an enjoyable lifestyle in retirement. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode of Now and Beyond. I hope my story has given you some insight into why I do what I do and how my experiences have shaped my approach to financial planning and my business. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. I will put the ways to reach out to me in the show notes. Be sure to connect with me on social media, follow my YouTube channel, and make sure you like and subscribe to not miss out on stories just like this. Until next time, this is Ryan Canfield reminding you to live life to the fullest today while continuing to plan for an awesome tomorrow. Have a great day.
The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.